What's up? So today's one hopefully be brief, and the purpose of it is to try and get you to understand how complex things actually can be, and why you always have to be wary with two things. One, when you're actually asking a question, that if you want a very specific answer for you, or you want, I suppose, again, the most amount of information that you can possibly get from someone, the question that you ask has to be with as much detail as possible. So you have to try and be, I suppose, concise and succinct to the point with whatever you're trying to say, so that the person on the other side can actually absorb all information, synthesize it together, and give you an exact answer. The second thing then you got to be wary of is like how complicated things actually can be, and how complex the information behind the answers that you're getting to your questions actually is as well. So, for example, I'll quite often get asked the question about, I suppose, gym training for field sports, or field sport athletes, or just athletes in general, or improving strength, for a field sport, and what's the best way to go about it. And the issue with that question is that it's again highly individualized, in terms of training age, how long someone's been training for, what sport they're playing, and I suppose where they sit currently in their season. But it's also dependent on like what their end goal is, and what they want the outcome to be. So with that in mind, then you have to go through the process of thinking about all these different things with regards to strength, and try and figure out what's the best answer to give to the person that's answering the question. And the purpose of this video now is just to give you an idea. So when someone says to me about building strength, in my head, you got to go to, okay, is it overall general strength? So have they trained at all? Do they have an experience of training? And is that the type of strength they're thinking about? Is it strength with regards to strength in a tackle? So that sort of strength, you're looking at things like core strength, upper body strength, lower body strength, but more so from the perspective of isometric contractions. Because when you think about, I suppose, on the ball strength, we take it from either a football perspective, or hurling, or even say from rugby. When you actually look at collisions themselves, so in the tackle, there's not a whole lot of movement. What you're actually trying to do is resist movement, so getting better at isometrically contracting all of your muscles at the same time, so that the other person doesn't, or isn't as easily able to knock you over or knock you off the ball. So that's the type of strength we're thinking about there, and that's more specific strength, and again, it comes down to where the person is lacking. When a person talks about strength with regards to power, that is a twofold question. So you've got the strength side of it, where you have to increase someone's ability to produce force, and then you've got the time constraints of the length of time that they actually have to produce said force. So, for example, if we talk about sprinting, and I've had this conversation with some of my clients just before lockdown, when you think about sprinting, and you might have seen this somewhere, that when you sprint, every time your one leg hits the ground, you could be producing anywhere between 3 to 5 times your body weight with regards to forces. So force in terms of newtons, if you're 80 kilos of body weight and your foot is hitting the ground, you're producing at least 3 times that every time you hit the ground. So you have to be able to essentially lift 240 kilos on one leg. Now, it's obviously not theoretically exactly like that, but the point is still valid. But what people don't think, or what they don't think about then, is the time constraint that's actually on that. So when that foot is on the ground, you have to produce that amount of force to keep you running that fast, or to develop speed in the acceleration phase. But you've also got to do it in such a short space of time, because your foot is only on the ground for roughly about 200 milliseconds. So it's not like a single leg squat, or it's not like a back squat where your foot is constantly in contact with the floor, and you've got loads of time, because when you think about a back squat in itself, you put the bar on your back. From the time you put the bar on your back to the time you get your feet set up in position to the time you've actually gone through a full rep, it could be anywhere from 6 to 8 seconds. When you're in game, your foot is on the floor. Your foot is only on the floor for about 200 milliseconds. So you're essentially, what's that? Again, quick maths. 200 milliseconds is a fifth of a second. So it's 1/40th of the time that your foot is on the ground, and you're trying to produce much more force than that. So that's the thing that needs to be considered as well with regards to developing strength. You've got strength endurance, so again, the ability of your body to produce force consistently over a considerable period of time, and to resist fatigue. And then you've just got, I suppose, the basic strength or the eccentric strength with regards to I suppose injury prevention. So again, when you think about things like your ligaments and tendons, so Achilles tendons, your ligaments around the knees, again, just being healthy, as opposed to producing performance, because that, when you look at developing, I suppose, a program for injury prevention, for the Achilles tendon, is much different to how you go about programming it for sports performance improvement for the Achilles tendon as well, because they respond very differently to different protocols, and what you've got to do is you've got to decide which is the best one for the end goal that you've got to get to. And like I said, this has probably gone on way longer than I thought it would, but the point of it is that when you are asking questions, try and be as direct as you can. It's not rude to be direct when you're asking a question. Try to be as, I suppose, as open and honest about the question as you can, and then try and give as much detail about the question without rambling on too long, because then people stop watching and stop listening. But yeah, so again, be more direct with the questions, get more direct and more specific answers to you, and just be conscious of the fact that things are very, very different. Not very different, very much more complex than you'd realize. So when you say about developing strength, it can be really simple, but the I suppose the background behind it and the complex things that are actually going on within the body to get you to those points need to be understood. So hopefully you took a little bit from that. Hopefully it wasn't too long, and I will see you guys in the next one.